Welcome to Hispanic Biz Success Stories. I'm Homero Galicia. We interview entrepreneurs who built successful businesses for them to share their story with you. Thank you for watching. Today we have with us, we're very fortunate to have Mr. Octavio Saavedra, the president of EP Logistics. Mr. Saavedra, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Tell me, what is EP Logistics?
Well, EP Logistics is a global freight forwarder, and we offer our customers a wide range of logistics solutions. We offer ocean freight, air freight, customs brokerage, warehousing, over-the-road freight. And what we do, we combine those different services and offer customized solutions to our clients.
What kind of customers do you have?
Our main customers, we focus on the maquiladora industry, being here in the border. EP Logistics has offices not only in the U.S., but we also have offices throughout Mexico. We try to strategically place our locations close to where the main industrial parks are, so we can put the product, the raw materials to our maquiladoras, to our customers, close to their sites.
Why did you name your company EP Logistics?
Well, there's a misconception. EP Logistics, a lot of people call it El Paso Logistics, which is fine because I consider myself here from El Paso. But it really stands for experts and professionals in logistics, and it goes well with EP Logistics. And we're headquartered here in El Paso, and proud to be one of the few global freight forwarders from El Paso. And
so you're an expert professional in logistics.
Yes, we're experts and professionals in logistics. That's right.
Ms. Saavedra, where'd you grow up?
I'm originally from Laredo, Texas. I was born in Laredo, Texas. First part of my years, my younger years in elementary school, I lived in Nuevo Laredo. So my first years in elementary was in Nuevo Laredo. My parents were business owners. They owned novelty stores in the Laredo, Texas side. We crossed every day until finally my dad decided to move the family to the U.S. So I went from finishing 6th grade and moved on to Laredo, Texas, and I had to put me back a year so I can learn the English language because I didn't know a word in English, so I had to learn it. It was kind of an interesting story because what would happen in school is that everything that I received, I was a very social kid, but since I didn't speak the language, I was kind of secluded in the back or isolated, and I had to translate all my homework from Spanish to English or English to Spanish so I could understand it. But it took a year and a half to really catch on, and at that age, there's no fear, and so picked it up rather quickly, and so again I grew up in Laredo, went to high school there, and then I went off to college in Texas State University. Used to be the Southwest Texas State University.
So you went to college in San Marcos?
In San Marcos, Texas.
And your field of study there?
My field of study was finance with a minor in accounting.
So, and you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have a sister. Her name is Monica Saavedra, and she lives in Austin, and she's the director for nonprofit organization down there in Austin, and she's doing very well for herself. I'm very proud of her, and occasionally I go out there and visit. Austin's a great city to visit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, tell me about your parents. Your father. They had a business.
Yeah, they had a business. Well, first my dad worked for one of the few sporting goods stores in downtown Laredo, and he was a manager there. And then he decided to start his own business. So we had a novelty store, and depended on the market from the people that would come from Mexico, Monterrey and Mexico City, that would come to Nuevo Laredo to buy U.S. goods. And go back. So actually started working there at a very early age. So I was involved in business decisions even selling. I think my dad was one of the best salesmen I ever known. And I really learned some of the business fundamentals there. My mother used to do the accounting. My dad was the sales and purchasing. He was in charge of buying all the goods and that we would sell, and my mom carried the books. Yeah.
So your family business, and at that time you still lived in Nuevo Laredo?
No, by that time we were already in Laredo, Texas, and that was in the years between, I would say, 79 through about 89 or something like that. Yeah.
So you grew up in a business?
I grew up in a business.
Selling
yeah.
and
selling and so on, and it was a tough business. The retail business downtown Laredo was, you had your moments of glory, and then there was when the peso devaluation would hit. Those were some really difficult times. What's it like? Well, I remember one specific day where it was a day before the devaluation. Can't remember exactly what the peso, I think it was 12-1 the peso. And I remember this flock of people, massive amount of people from Mexico coming in. We had our best day of sales. Obviously, the news didn't travel as fast as they do today. So Mexico kept a secret about their peso being devaluated. So these people knew somehow, and they came and they bought everything in sight. I mean, we had finished goods on the shelves that, I mean, had dust, had not moved for over a year. These people bought everything. Of course, everything they bought was half price practically. And I remember we had a stack of cash that at the end of the day we were celebrating what a great sale it was. But in the news that night, they finally let the news out that the peso had been devaluated. So that stack became half or maybe even lower than that. So it was some tough times to recover from that, because with that we had to convert to dollars and pay our suppliers, right? And that was tough times. At that point, I saw some of these things, and I said that I never wanted to be in that type of business, in the retail business. I wanted something more consistent that dealt with corporations rather than.
But you knew you wanted business as a kid.
Yeah, I did. It was already in my blood, and especially in the freight forwarding business. Being from Laredo, everybody there is either a freight forwarder, a warehouse, transportation company. My mother worked for a freight forwarder. My grandfather, he was a Mexican customs official. Because from my mother's side, my grandfather, he used to work for Mexican customs in Veracruz. And then he got relocated from Veracruz to the port of Nuevo Laredo. And that's how my mother's side of the family came to Nuevo Laredo, where my mom met my dad, and that's.
What was your mother like? She was an accountant and hard worker, and what did you learn from your mom?
She's definitely a go-getter. I mean, she gets things done, and she doesn't forget anything. You know, when she gives you something to do or has a vision of what she wants you to do, she will follow up, and then that's a great art of delegation in our business. You know, you turn something over. A lot of times you have good managers that they just do it, but then you have some that require some follow-up. And you know, the art of delegation is making sure you follow up.
That's right. Wow, fantastic. Good lesson. You learned that early.
Good learn. Yes, I learned a lot of things from the business from my parents, and the good side and also the bad side. You know, the things not to do.
Your father, what was he like?
Like I said, he was really very social, great salesman, and he really could. He he could really sell and work pricing with the suppliers. So he was like, he would deal the purchasing side and the sales part of it. And so both of them complemented each other. My mother did the admin books, and my dad did the buying and the selling. So the business was small, so you didn't need a lot of the other things that you need nowadays.
But it supported the family.
Yes, absolutely. It supported the family, helped me through college.
And you knew you wanted to go to college all along?
Well, yes, I know I wanted to get an education. Back in those days, they really didn't push, what college to go to and so on. It's just how I decided to go to college is because the rest of my friends were going to Texas State, and we all signed the applications we were having a get together in my house, and we all filled out the application, and we all went to, like a group of 5 of us went to the same school. No rhyme or reason.
Wow.
But obviously today, things are much more different. Parents are more involved with the kids as to, really focus as to, what's your career, what do you like, and make sure you're happy with what you're gonna do. And
what kind of a kid were you? Were you a pingo?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I was more of the street smart type of kid than the really hit the books. But not until I got to college, where my first semester in college, I thought I could, I thought I could cruise like in high school. And boy, was that a rude awakening in my first semester. Got my first grades, and then at that point, I said, okay, am I gonna work for my dad, or am I gonna get an education and do something on my own? And that was so at that point, I made a commitment to myself to really study hard, and if my grades improve, I was gonna continue the college career, and they did. Okay. And so I continued on.
That's great.
And
your parents, are they still alive?
yeah, both of my parents.
And they
still
live
alive.
in Laredo? Or?
Yes, they both live. Well, actually, my dad lives in Nuevo Laredo. My mom lives in Laredo. They're not separated, but they both live in Laredo.
I see, yes.
My mother comes here more often than my dad, but they make it out here.
So after college, then you look for a job, or what do you do?
Well, going through the finance classes, because I really loved the stock market. I wanted one day to work in the stock market, right, in Wall Street. So right out of college, I got a job with a brokerage firm, and so it wasn't what it was like in the movies. Yeah. You get in there, you get a bunch of materials that you need a lot certifications and so on. And I had loans to pay for, student loans that, I got a job, I got this loan, so this burden on my back, and because although my parents helped me some, it wasn't enough. My parents' business because of the peso devaluation, didn't do as well as they thought it was going to do. So I had to kind of find funding on my own after a while. And again, there were some difficult times there, but so when I graduated, I went to work for this brokerage firm. And first thing they asked me was, Octavio, why don't you put a list of all the wealthy people you know? That was a little uncomfortable to begin with. And so I started calling them, and probably out of the group, I was the only one that actually sold something. And after everything was done, I got deductions for training materials and this and that. I was really disappointed. So I had, during my college years, I was working for a customs broker in Laredo, and they would give me time to go work there for Christmas break, summer break, and so on. So they always held a job for me. So when I quit this brokerage job, they had an opening in that company for a manager trainee in Brownsville, Texas. and I took it. And I went from Austin, well, by the way, when I graduated from San Marcos, I lived in Austin, and I went from Austin to Brownsville. Quite a change. I had been to Brownsville, but just to the South Padre Island area, which is the resort. However, there in Brownsville, that's why I started my career in the logistics business. For a small company, very similar to the Rudy Miles, called Corrigan Dispatch down there. And I worked there for about 6 years. I got in there, I also studied for my custom brokerage exam, where I got it in 1992 is when I got my brokerage exam.
So what year did you graduate from college?
89.
Okay. And so you worked for this company, and you were learning about the business. You knew the business a little bit, but were you learning about the business as well as you were working? And
yeah, well, I had some experience already. When I worked in Laredo, first they had me in the filming room, in the microfilming room, back when you used to microfilm,
right.
and and shredding and doing like filing, admin stuff, and then they got promoted to being what they call there a dispatcher, where you actually take the entry documents down to the bridge, match it up with the truck that's coming across the border, match them up, and you present it to customs. And then customs will come out and ask, okay, entry 1, 2, 3, 4, trailer 4, 5, 6, and we had to match them up. We'll call the driver, where's the trailer? Customs official will come out, look at the trailer, open up the back, and just check a couple of the items that were there, and if everything checked out, he closed the doors, signed off the paperwork, and that was the clearance for it, and that's what I used to do back then. So I had some experience with the brokerage. So when I went as a manager trainee, I knew what went on at the import lot. And
so you had a good background. Yeah. So meanwhile, as you're working, you stayed in Brownsville?
Yeah. I was there about 1.5 years. And then from the same company, they moved me to McAllen, Texas. So I worked another 1.5 years. And that same company was struggling with the management and the leadership for their branch in El Paso. And they had a really tough time growing this branch here in El Paso. So they sent me kind of on a fact-finding mission to see how I can help. And I saw a huge opportunity. Being from Brownsville and McAllen, smaller towns, and then you come to El Paso, which has twice the amount of maquiladoras, and say, I can't, I told my boss at the time, I can't explain why we haven't grown, because there's so much opportunity out there. We're just not actively going after new customers. So shortly thereafter, guess what? I get the job in El Paso and start out small, and we start growing it. And
so you grew it from very little to.
Well, yeah, it was just an office, had no warehouse, so we weren't doing any work. So I moved it to another facility where it had the opportunity to do not only brokerage but warehousing. So it grew. A couple of years later, a big global Fortune 500 company came in, a global freight forwarder, and hired me from that company. And that was back in 96, 97. And that company, I was the very first employee they hired in El Paso. They had just gotten a big account, a big automotive account. And so first employee, and I had to hire the team, wow. Start from zero. I remember sitting at my kitchen table with the new hires and assigning, delegating tasks. Okay, you're gonna go get the permit, you're gonna go do this, because our offices weren't finished. So it took a little while to grow it, and really that is where I learned a lot in that company, because I used to run my own P&L there.
So you grew that company.
Yes. Mhm.
Like if it was your own business.
Like yeah, I operated that company like it was my own business, but with that being my money, without having all of my money in
You grew their business without,
Yeah.
with somebody else's money.
somebody else's money.
But you learned.
I learned the fundamentals, although I have some background with where I came from, but really the strategy of growing business, maintaining business, and looking at the sales part of it. I really learned it at this global.
So how long did you work for them?
I worked for them 8 years.
And so you started with no sales, and you ended up in 8 years. How big did you grow that?
Well, we did start with an anchor account because they had they came to El Paso because they had landed a big automotive account. So we had a little bit of a base to start from, but that wasn't going to keep us going for much longer, you know. So we started with a small base. We were 4 employees to begin with, and after 8 years, we had approximately 200,000 square feet of warehousing and close to 80 employees.
Wow.
So
From 4 to 80 employees.
yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
And
big
that
growth.
8-year span that we had.
So you know what it is to grow a business.
Absolutely, but I'm still learning every day. Yeah.
So in the process now, when do you get married?
Oh, yeah. When I first moved to El Paso, which was in 95, 96 time frame, I met my wife. We had some mutual friends, but a mutual friend of ours introduced us at the gym. So it was kind of like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I was there and introduced us. And after that was the coffee after, and from there was history. Yeah.
And your wife, where is she from?
My wife was born in California, Hawthorne, California, but she grew up here in El Paso. Her parents are from Argentinian descent. Her father used to run a shelter operation in Juarez, and that's what brought him and the family here. He went from Cleveland to, well, he first migrated from Buenos Aires to New York, New Jersey area, and then he hopped around until he found his niche, and his niche was a shelter operation in Juarez.
And you have children.
Yes, I do. I have 3 kids. Julia is 14 years old. In fact, she turns 14 here in March 13th, in a couple of weeks during spring break. And Paola is 12 years old, middle child, and then Sebastian, he's 10 years old.
Is your boy a lot like you, or any of your daughters?
I think the boy is more like me. You know, he's moving, 1,000 miles an hour, can't really sit still for a while, and loves sports like his dad. He's now playing baseball. He's all excited about playing baseball. He wants to play football, but we're holding him back.
Did you play sports?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I played football and
Really?
and track.
Wow.
Yeah, while I was in high school.
You still run?
No, I don't run, but I picked up a sport called CrossFit,
Okay.
and I do that every morning.
Wow, that's neat.
Yeah.
Your wife, what's her name?
My wife's name's Maria,
Okay.
Maria Saavedra, and we've been married 17 years. now.
17 years.
Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. So you work for this company now for 8 years,
Mhm.
and what happened at that point?
Well, I lost my job.
Okay.
Okay, I gave a lot to this company. The company gave a lot to me, and at that point, when I lost my job, I thought, wow, what am I going to do? Because it was really bad timing. But there is really not who picks the time, right? Lost my job. I had a 6-month-old. I just moved into a new house. Had a bunch of plans going forward, and the carpet gets pulled underneath me. And so I said, well, what do I do now? What I did say, committed to myself, is this: I'm not gonna be in the same position ever again. So the entrepreneurship inside of me started to kick in, right? I was very committed to that company, so I had no plans. I had no plan of preparing something on the side or anything like that. So, but not until that happened, it triggered something inside me to say, hey, you can do it, and you can do it better.
So without realizing it, all of a sudden you realize you have been preparing.
Yes, yeah. They really, I learned a lot in that company. They're a well-structured company. They're doing fantastic. And so, because they have a good model. And my idea is to learn from that model and perfect that model to meet the needs of a smaller company that is more personalized in their services, not so focused on just the bottom line. And that is my...
So you decided you were going to go on your own and start your own business.
At that point, I decided that I was going to begin building my own business, yes.
What year was that?
That was in 2005.
So all of a sudden now you've got to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to ask you also about what needs you saw, but how did your family take you starting a business after all these years of a paycheck?
You know, I had the full support of my wife. Obviously, we had to redo our budget, take a step back. You know, she went back to work after she had been at home with the kids and so on to support this, because obviously the income wasn't the same. So the support from my family was key to my success too. So I had support, from my wife, support from my in-laws, and from my parents as well. Mostly it was, moral support, and that's what's the most important, is the type where you say, hey, you can do this. If you did it for these guys, you can do it for yourself.
And you had the drive.
And I had the drive. I had the motivation, right? The know-how, and but it wasn't easy.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to start a business, and you have your family support. Now you have teenagers.
Right. I do.
What's it like raising teenagers?
It's challenging. Julia is, which is my 13-year-old, going to 14, but she thinks she's 18, right? Wonderful girl. She's really focused on school. She's a very determined young lady. She really works hard at getting good grades. Really starting to enjoy her friends more than being with the parents and so on, and crazy about One Direction. I don't know, some boy band out there that she really enjoys. And then Paola, she's 12, and she's really a natural for school. It really comes natural. All subject matters. I mean, she is just smart.
And she already knows what she wants to do.
Plastic surgeon, she told me. So get ready, Dad, because I want to go to Ivy League, and she named 2 very prestigious schools, and I told her, if you can get the grades and you can get in, I'll support you.
That's great.
So she threw out there Harvard and Princeton, and I go, oh, my wallet started to shake a little bit. But no, she's a good gal.
Good. And then your son is the youngest.
And then my son is the youngest. He's like I said, he loves the sports, kind of a street smart kid. He struggles with the grades, but I think it's just the age. But he's a good kid too.
And your wife she's working or just?
She's a stay-at-home mom. Really, probably the hardest job that you can have.
So here you are having to start a business.
Yep.
Kind of being forced into it, right?
Yeah, I was pretty much pushed into it.
Why did you decide, here you are without a job, and you have some options.
Yeah.
Go get another job because you're you built this business for this large company. So you're certainly marketable, but you decide to open a business. Why did you decide that you wanted to go owning your own business?
For the same reasons that I lost my job. I didn't want to really not have control of my future. Where here I was, where I thought I was, really moving up in the ranks and so on. I had some opportunities that I passed on to be, a regional director or so on. One time it was an opportunity to move into Mexico City, to run Mexico City, but my wife didn't want to go to Mexico City, which I totally understand, and probably the right decision to stay here. Don't regret any of those things. So there I am, kind of facing reality. I did kind of, interview the market, but all the other major freight forwarders are much different. They have a much different model than what I was accustomed to. So I didn't want to be in that same situation again at the end of the day, and being an entrepreneur just kind of kicked in.
So what are freight forwarders?
Freight forwarders they call freight forwarders, 3PLs, and so on. What we do is we move freight on behalf of our customers. So, for example, you have freight sitting anywhere in China. You need to move it ocean or air. We have contracts with multiple ocean steamship lines, and we find the best routing for your freight. Best routing, best pricing. The same thing with the air freight. We buy space with the airlines, and we move cargo. And because we're freight forwarders, we have multiple customers, and we use those volumes to negotiate rates with the suppliers. The suppliers being the airlines and the ocean liners and the trucking lines as well, because we also offer.
So, but when you start, of course, you have to start from scratch.
Yes.
What need did you see? Did you see a need not being served?
Absolutely. The niche that I saw when I first started was a trend that is relatively common now, is where we manage the inventory for the maquiladora industry. But not only do we manage it, but that inventory is not owned by them. It's owned by the suppliers, and we build the suppliers. So the benefit to the maquiladora is that, one, they don't have that inventory in their balance sheet. So immediately there's a huge cash flow and benefit for the balance sheet. They really love that. The other benefit is that we take that warehousing space, we put it in our facility. They use that warehousing space for production. Production is more profitable. Production space is more profitable for the maquiladora. So from the onset, I had an opportunity with a big company here called Foxconn in San Jeronimo and in Oscar Flores, in Juarez, where they said, okay, EP Logistics, you can come in and do vendor managed inventory for us. And they gave us a little corner in the back, way in the back, and that's how we got started. And in fact, we had such a good relationship with the Foxconn executives that they even helped me select the right system, kind of coach me along the way. and because they knew we had a good relationship, there was good integrity, honesty, and there was that confidence between us. So we built that vendor managed inventory warehouse inside their facility, and we started growing, right? And as we grew, they were growing too. So we kind of got squeezed out of there, and from that facility, we went into we got a different building because there were also competitors of Foxconn that didn't want to do business with us because we were inside their competitor. So there were other contract manufacturers that didn't want to deal with us because we were inside. But once we moved out, actually our business started growing as well.
So you put a warehouse in Juarez, in Ciudad Juarez?
Yes, in Ciudad Juarez,
okay.
Right.
And so, you're talking about relationships. You had relationships and you grew relationships.
Right.
But you talked about integrity and honesty. How important is integrity and honesty?
God, I think integrity and honesty is probably the backbone of every business. Because when you talk to a customer, especially in our business, is that you give them a price, they know you're not gouging them, you know that the price is competitive, and I welcome any of my customers to go out and benchmark the market. That also your approach when you say you can do something, you deliver, right? So it's part of the culture and the traits that we at EP Logistics follow, right? From commitment, integrity, honesty, and deliver on those things.
So those are some fundamental principles for you to build your business.
Absolutely.
And it helped grow your business with the relationships that you had.
Yes.
But then you grew other relationships and other customers?
Oh, absolutely. And it's all about building the right model that I just mentioned, the niche. And then from there, the same customers, they grow that confidence with you, and they say, well, EP, Octavio, I really want to see the upstream flow of the goods rather than just the four walls that you're offering me. Can you do that for us? And that's where we got into the ocean freight, the air freight, so we can give visibility of our customers of the freight that's coming in all the way from origin, and while it's in the warehouse.
And you're also a customs broker.
I'm also a licensed customs broker. Been licensed now for 20 years.
Wow. So this business of ocean freight and air freight, when you talk about finding the right route, what options do you have?
Oh boy. Well, and recently it was all over the news that the Long Beach, the stevedores down there, the longshoremen, they didn't really strike. They were just slowing the process because they didn't get the contract that they wanted. They weren't happy, but they put the pressure by slowing things down. So instead of unloading 20, 30 vessels a day, they were only unloading half of them. So it was creating this huge bottleneck. So it was extremely important to find better routings for our customers. Some customers decided to go all the way around the globe to Savannah, Georgia, Houston. We came up with some more creative things going through the port of Manzanillo, utilizing our Mexico infrastructure to be able to bring freight through the Manzanillo up the coast to the border here, because most of our customers are in Juarez or Chihuahua area.
So here you are, a child of the border, growing up in Laredo, and of course doing a lot of business in El Paso. Now you start your business in El Paso, Juarez. What value does that bring to the business that you're in, knowing the border?
Yeah, knowing the border is really knowing both cultures. I was fortunate enough that my parents were Mexican. I knew the culture. My first language was Spanish, so I speak both languages relatively well, and so that really gave me sort of an advantage. I can go into any meeting in Mexico and be able to talk business in Spanish without missing a beat. Right.
Do American-based businesses and Mexican-based businesses operate different cultures?
Well, that's a good question. I think they do. But I think I see the Mexico business changing more and more and thinking more globally, more like American type of business. There's been a lot of changes. The typical Mexico business would be the business owner would always cash in and never invest back into the business. But now we're starting to see a change of that. That it really, instead of putting all the money into their pockets, they're actually building infrastructure for their businesses and so on. And that's how you make the thing grow.
So you started in 2005. How long did it take you to get to where you began to believe or know that you had a business?
Well, there were some tough years because in 2005 we were just in diapers. I needed some capital to get started to begin with. Since it's a U.S. entity that manages a Mexican entity, it operates like a maquiladora industry, right? Or a maquiladora business. But our business is de servicios, it's a service maquila. So for me to find funding, it was kind of difficult. I went to the SBA, they said, okay, you got to do a business plan. Okay, no problem. I had some experience doing business plan. And the people here at SBA are very good. They give you some samples, they give you some coaching, a few meetings. Didn't take long before we did some forecasting of, okay, how many customers, expectation of revenue, my expenses over a 2-year span. Okay, here it is. Go to SBA. And to find out that SBA really doesn't fund money for when the majority of the investment is going to go to a foreign country, in this case Mexico. So I was back to square one. So I had to do, I remember the house I told you that I had just built. I had to sell that house, moved into a smaller house, had some sacrifices to do, used that capital to back up my the loan. And I at that time I worked with State National. They really believed in my business plan. They helped me through the loan process. Although it wasn't very risky because I had it pretty much, backed up with some collateral of my own, and because I was blessed in that area where I worked, I saved some money and we had that going as well.
But your banker understood the business you were in too.
My banker really understood the business. His name is Hector Almeida. He's now retired, and he kind of walked me through the process. He understood it, believed in me, and signed in the dotted line and moved forward. And that's really what funneled the business. So we bought computers, systems, and working capital to get things rolling the first couple of years. And in addition, I took a job. I did an alliance with another freight forwarder, where I started their brokerage entity and supported them with their international business as well. From the beginning, I was up front and told them I'm building my Mexico entity, and when my business started growing and growing, it was requiring more and more time until I needed to be there 100% of the time.
How long did that take?
It took about 3 years. It took about 3 years before we can actually make the turn to some positive numbers. We've had some months of glory, but if you remember, between 2006 and 2008, the economic downturn was terrible. 2008 was horrible for the stock market too, and everything was going down. Maquiladoras were moving to China, and at that point it was survival of the fittest, is how I saw it. The well-managed companies, the well-structured companies are the ones that survived. And although I was starting, I didn't have a cushion, we really, because if things are going well, sales, you may have bad things going on, but sales covers the dirt.
Covers a lot of sins.
Yeah, it covers a lot of sins. But when you don't have sales, those ugly things show there.
Interesting.
Right? And so some of my competitors went under, and I was the beneficiary of that.
Okay.
So
why didn't you go under?
Because I was trim. I was starting, and I didn't have, my expenses weren't high. We were counting our pennies, So when the others failed, we were able to pick up some of the business there, and that actually helped us grow and helped us through the depression.
So you have experience, you have relations to help you grow your business. Who are your influencers?
Oh boy, other than I would say several influencers. Other than my wife was always supportive. Hey, you can do this. My faith in God was also my biggest influencer, because immediately after I lost my job, I seek faith and get closer to Him. And so I would have to say my faith in God. And next to that, I would say my father-in-law, because he ran his business. He knew how the border operated. He was always a very wise man, and whenever I got stuck on something, he was the one that I would reach out to. Other influencers were previous bosses, a little bit from every boss. My very first boss at Corrigan was a gentleman by the name of Luis Cisneros. He kind of coached me along the way when I first started in Brownsville. Excellent. He knew the customs regulations like nobody, like the palm of his hand.
Wow.
He was an impressive man, and then along the way with the company, I had some demanding bosses that you take the good, that showed me how to read a P&L, how to control expenses, how to sell, how to manage people. I think the biggest problem in any business is the people factor. You gotta have people skills, and not only people skills, but you almost have to be a psychologist at times. I can't tell you how many times I had people in my office with personal issues that you have to, my God, where's the book when somebody's crying in your office about something? Is just, no, you don't learn that in school.
Yeah.
You learn that from growing up, your parents being compassionate and asking God, what would you do in this situation?
Wow.
And so you kind of walk through those things, and we're not perfect. We make mistakes along the ways, and you learn from those.
So you're a leader. You become a leader.
You become a leader, or you drown.
So as you're growing your business and it begins to grow, and did you run into any major obstacle?
Oh boy, the biggest obstacle for me is, since we run through basically two companies, my U.S. entity and my Mexican entity. Mexico's tough. Running a business in Mexico, it's really difficult, and there's always unknowns. The tax reform. They put so many rules in place. Is like, I thought for sure my business was a big part of my business was gonna dissolve when they came in with the tax reform, and they implemented that 16% IVA. I said, wow, what do we do? Because I'm a maquila de servicios. I sell the fact that I can import and not pay duties. The 60% on millions of dollars, who's gonna pay for it, and how we're gonna find? So those are challenges that you get. Living in the border too is another challenge because we have the drug problem, and not only do you have to be a good business savvy person, but you also have to protect yourself, your customers' cargo, the company's integrity, because these bad guys, they're just looking for an opportunity to piggyback somebody like you to move their goods. So as a transportation company, as a logistics company, those are the challenges that, living in Dallas, man, nobody worries about it. But living in the border is a whole different animal. Living next to Mexico is a whole different thing. That those challenges that sometimes, you wish, I wish I wasn't in the border, or this issue wouldn't be an issue, right? But those are the things that we have to live through and understand that those things happen, and that you have to protect your company. And that goes integrity, honesty, and
So how many offices now do you have, and how many employees?
We have 25 employees in the U.S., and we have approximately 125 employees in Mexico. We have offices in Juarez. We have multiple locations in Juarez to service the different parks that we have in Juarez. Obviously, Juarez is the biggest because that's how we started. And we have an operation in Monterrey. We have an operation in Reynosa, one in Chihuahua, and we're looking at Querétaro next because of the Bajío. All the automotive going into that area is really driving our company, and we're flexible. We want to grow, but we're building the model here in Juarez, El Paso. We're perfecting that model, and we're going to take it to each one of these locations.
How many square feet of warehouse space do you manage?
We manage close to 500,000 square feet of warehouse.
Do you own vehicle trucks, transportation trucks?
No, we're non-asset based type of company. I always tell people that it's like being a shoe shiner. You shoe shine, and that is your expertise. Stick with that. I'll pay the guy to do the shoe shine. Right?
So what is your expertise?
Well, I'm a licensed custom broker. What I always tell my people is to be, a jack of all trades and a master of some. Can't be a master of all. And my expertise are obviously experts in logistics. So my expertise, I really enjoy the sales part of my business. Being in front of the customer, that's what I enjoy. Whether it's good or bad, I like going into a meeting where customers upset because, their container got stuck in Long Beach. Okay, so we'll take slides of what's going on in Long Beach, and I say, we're all in this together. It's everybody. No need to get upset. But look, we have a solution for you. We're gonna move it through here, or we air freight it. Well, the air freight, they don't like it too much because it costs them too much money. But we find other solutions. And at the end of the meeting, he was upset, but at the end, we're shaking hands and we're laughing. And to me, that is gratitude. That is...
you like solving problems.
Absolutely. And, you can say, yeah, well, I'm an expert in custom brokerage and expert in this or so on. At the end of the day, people are looking for somebody who's going to find a solution. I don't care how you do it, but get me a solution.
So you built a very nice business now. Mm-hmm. So what's next?
I'm not done yet. Okay. I think I'm still in diapers in this business. Really just like I said, we're still perfecting the model. This year is going to be, for EP Logistics, is going to be the year of recruitment or recruiting of talent. Want to bring the best people out there in the market to help me continue to grow this dream. In fact, I don't know if it's a dream anymore because I've already surpassed what I wanted to do. Okay. And so now it's just fun. It's just, it becomes I had, okay, I need to have this much of sales, and this, if I can get there, I'm good. And so that is long on now. Okay, so no, what's next? Now we continue to raise the bar. So, so we're building a good infrastructure as bulletproof as possible, and take that infrastructure to the next level. One day, hopefully, we're ringing that bell in NASDAQ and saying, hey, we went public.
That's
Right.
where you're going. Fantastic.
That's where I'm going. I do have my reservations about being public, but because private has some benefits versus public, but and I also want to leave a legacy behind. Right? 3 kids that
Yeah.
we talked about,
But that's the horizon.
but there's a horizon.
Well, Mr. Saavedra, I really, really appreciate you sharing your story. It's a wonderful story, wonderful business you're building,
Thank you.
that you built and that you're building.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a family man, and you've shared that you're a man of integrity and honesty, and how important that is in business. And really appreciate you sharing your story, and we trust that you viewing have really enjoyed this story, and that you've learned from it, and that this story has impact. We thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next shows of Hispanic Biz Success Stories. Thank you, and good day.